Welcome back to Driven to Live. We're your hosts. I'm Stephen Rivers. This is Jesus Garcia, Jesus Behind the Wheel online. You can find me at S Rivers Cars. But more importantly, we have new social media accounts on Instagram, and probably by the time you're watching this on Twitter or X as well. Will we expand? We don't really know. But check us out at Driven to Live on Instagram for sure, and hopefully on Twitter soon as well. So sorry for missing everyone last week. We had some scheduling conflicts. Jesus has been absolutely booked solid. He's had a million things going on, and one of the million things going on is a trip to the World Cup with, I think Alanis was there as well, right?
Yeah, she was there too. She was one of the invited guests of the prestigious Texas-based media. Well, kudos to Kia because they invited me out to go watch the Argentina versus Jordan World Cup game past week, and in Dallas, Texas. And what a ride! It was great. First of all, a lot of people want to go see the World Cup, and I never thought I'd get to see one. But getting flown out, VIP, hotel, the whole works, suite at the game, 5-star experience all the way. I got to see my first World Cup in the best possible seats possible and experience it. Fantastic. Got to see Messi score a goal. That was pretty cool. And it's all thanks to Kia. And the good thing about it is that Kia, usually when you get invited to an event like this, there's a vehicle tie-in, like, hey, and you get those good test drive this XYZ, or there's a presentation involved. This was just kind of like, hey, you're based in Texas, there's a game in Texas, come over on us. And we're like, bet, thank you so much. So I kind of felt compelled when I was writing my videos and reviews, like, hey, check out Kia's fabulous line of midsize SUVs, like what I'm in right now, which is the 2026 Kia Sportage plug-in hybrid, which, Kia, you're doing great work, but this Kia Sportage plug-in hybrid, I'm getting 210 miles actual range, which is not that good, and I'm only averaging 27 miles per gallon, which is meh for a modern plug-in hybrid. Although I will say it looks pretty dang cool, especially with this premium shadow matte gray. That's what it's called. It does have like a whole sinister look, very Batmobile going to soccer practice vibe. I like it. Great size. Yeah. I mean, apparently the Sportage is Kia's best-selling vehicle in the world, like globally. Like, this is it. This is their cream of the crop. This is the one that's making that. This is the one that's keeping the lights on for Kia. And I can see why, because, I mean, the space is outstanding. This is technically a compact SUV, but, yeah, this is mid-size levels of luxury in here. And you get two-tone color seats. You can get it with just a gasoline, hybrid, plug-in hybrid, all-wheel drive, front-wheel drive, cool wheels, tons of space in the back, a lot of practical use out of it. I just wish that this particular version got better fuel economy because I expect more from Kia because they've always delivered in the last 15 years. That being said, thank you so much for the World Cup. I love it. I'm probably one of the very few people in the world that can say they went to a World Cup game for only $35. That's all it cost me.
Totally fair.
Oh, by the way, the steering wheel, I love it. It looks exactly like a early 90s Lincoln Town Car or Ford Taurus.
It is pretty simple. It is pretty straightforward. In general, a great vehicle, I thought.
Yeah.
I don't remember what I got in terms of fuel economy. I mean, it all comes down to how much are you charging the thing, right? Like, so much of it is that. But overall, a very clean vehicle. Like, for the money, if you can charge it every night at home, which means you'll run mostly on electrical power, pretty outstanding for a person who's going to never put more than about 4 people in a car. The trim is nice, the leather's nice, the look of the vehicle's nice. I mean, I would say the wheels are maybe a little bit questionable, but tough to complain about. Well, look, what'd you say, 50 grand?
Like this one's 50 grand with all because it is the X-Line Prestige all-wheel drive top of the line edition. I will say when I got it, The battery is very low. I think I had like 4 miles of range. So I've been using mostly gasoline on this road trip, which is why I'm getting such terrible performance for a plug-in hybrid.
Good point.
But I mean, I do like it. It's something that I could drive myself every day. And plus, this one, as I'm in it, has 12,000 miles, which is roughly about like a year on a lease. And it looks showroom fresh. Like there's no nicks, there's no scratches. The plastic doesn't look like dried out yet. It's aging very well.
Yeah, I would agree. It does look really good. Now, in the interim, since we were off last week, you also drove the Ram Longhorn. Tell us about that. What did you think of that?
Yeah, this is Lone Star. I get confused too. Okay, Lone Star basically
Lone
meaning
Star.
it's
Whatever.
the Texas spec version of the
It's
Ram
the Texas
1500.
only. Yeah.
Texas only. Ram was adamant about it. Basically, if you want a Lone Star Ram 1500 for XYZ, but you live in Oklahoma or Canada, you have to buy it from a dealer in Texas and then ship it out because they will not deliver a Lone Star anywhere but Texas. That is just their one stipulation. And the reason why we have a Lone Star edition is because apparently, according to Ram, 1 out of every 6 Ram trucks is sold right here. So that's kind of like that's a thank you. Like here, you get your own trim level because you guys make us a lot of money. Thank you very much. The Ram Lone Star, it's kind of like a mid-tier trim level, so which means it comes standard with cloth seats, which I was grateful because Texas heat, those are very forgiving. You know, you're not going to burn yourself when you get inside of it. And the one that I had, full 4x4 off-road package, which means heavy-duty shocks and springs, and you get skid plates for everything underneath, from the gas tank all the way to the radiator. Very nice. It allowed me to drive off-road with a lot more confidence. It is a little tall with that 4x4 package, and it didn't have any side rails, so I did have to jump up and down, which is not ideal if you have bad knees or if you're short like I am. 5.7 liter Hemi is one of 3 engine options for the Lone Star. Standard is the V6, the trusty Pentastar 3.6 liter. You get the Hurricane for a bump more, but the highest is the 5.7 Hemi, which is 395 horsepower. Which oddly enough, it is not the most powerful engine, but I liked it. I drove it around. It does feel huge, as most trucks do. I mean, it's on the highway, in the city, in parking lots. You can't avoid how big and wide it feels. It is a growing concern, not just with Ram, with all modern trucks, as far as how big they feel and how big they are. And I mean, it's like the hood line's right up to my nose at this point. And this is just a regular 1500. We're not talking about like the heavy duty diesel trucks. So that I'm hoping will change next generations because it's getting excessive. Like even for Texas sized trucks, it's getting a little too big. But beyond that, as far as ride quality, excellent. Even though it does have the heavy duty shocks and springs. Off road, dude, I felt like I could drive this thing anywhere. It was so good. Didn't need to put in 4 low or 4 high ever. Just in 2-wheel drive and got out of mud, dirt, sand, no problem. Cool color options, and that's one thing I will praise Ram for doing, is that they are throwing so many variants and trim levels and engines at the lineup now that it's gonna be crazy for people to decide on what they want.
Yeah, I do agree that like having so many options out there is a really smart move. And I think that segues really nicely into the reason this podcast is on Tuesday, everybody. I just came back from driving the Ram TRX, which was insane, as one might assume. Let me just show you like a few brief moments of what that was like, because I've got some on video here. Hang on.
That one?
So this is the B-roll package that Ram sent out, and you can tell the truck's got a lot of engine. Let me cut their audio down a little bit. They had us doing a 45 mile per hour jump on this with this 6,200 pound truck roughly. They also had us doing a jump of about 70 miles an hour if you hit it right. was insane. It is very difficult to put into words just how wild this truck really is. And it's kind of funny, I'll tell you, like, this is the part that we couldn't tell you before today. It drives worse on broken pavement than it does over a jump at 70 miles an hour. It's just jarring and rattly, if that makes any sense. And once you put it on dirt, the Bilstein dampers and shocks and everything, they're at home. They're where they want to be. And they're just much, much, much smoother than they were.
I'm so jealous I wasn't invited to this event.
Now,
Part for the best, though.
yeah, I'm sad
Definitely
you
would
weren't
have
there
gotten carried
too.
away.
Yeah, keep in mind, everybody, there will be a podcast that we do in person soon, hopefully. We're working on that. And if we happen to get to go to the same event, that'll be the perfect opportunity. It was a ton of fun. The TRX is all about excess, right? It's not bad to drive on the road. I should say that. I don't want to complain and say, well, it's terrible to drive on the road. It's good to drive on the road too. It does not feel as gigantic as it is necessarily. That doesn't really help you though when you're in like tight traffic, tight parking lots, places where no matter how good it feels from the steering wheel, it's still physically humongous. But it was a lot of fun. And it reminded me of what a good name this is for this vehicle. You know, like, obviously, I am a dinosaur lover. And TRX is perfect. It reminded me of that first time you see a T-Rex in Jurassic Park. And I don't mean the first time in the movie. I mean the very first time you ever watched that film and you saw that thing. That sense of occasion, that sense of like reverence and fear and excitement and all of that span of emotion totally embodied in this truck. It is a sense of occasion every single time you start it up. It's a sense of occasion when you're making a turn in a neighborhood at 10 miles an hour and you blip the throttle to slowly speed your way up and you can hear the supercharger whine. Like, it's just silly. You can drive it like an adult and you're still only going to get like, I don't know, 12 miles to the gallon in like combined. Like, that's what they say. I tried to basically hypermile it during my time with it, and I got less than 10 miles per gallon. So I don't expect most people to get 10 miles. Yeah. Yeah. Overall driving experience, wildly positive. Like I said about the Jurassic Park thing, it just reminded me of that first time you ever see a dinosaur and you're just like bowled over and a little bit terrified and a little bit excited and you're not sure how to feel. And I will say this, I did break it. As our few followers will know, we use these little tools. This is called a draggy. It's a GPS tracker. It's exactly what it sounds like, except for that it's not constantly monitoring 24/7. But you hook this up to your phone, appropriate for the moment, and you track how fast you do 0 to 60 or 0 to 100 or a bunch of other times. In any case, I slapped one of these into the TRX, took it out to a place where I could legally do it, and then subsequently lost it by leaving it in the truck when I flew home. But in the middle of testing, the best 0 to 60 I could get was about 4.1, and that includes the rollout. So without rollout, it's like 4.3, and RAM says it'll do it in 3.5. So almost a full second off of what RAM says. But a couple key points here. First, it was like 96 degrees, 97 degrees when I was doing this. And the trucks had been on for several hours. So we got a ton of heat soak. the road's really not in a good condition, and you're still ripping off 4.30 to 60s over and over. So, still relatively impressive. Would I have loved to go sub 4? Of course. But it is what it is. It turns out that launching the truck more than a few times in a row will break it. Kind of. It had an issue with the brake booster, and to Ram's credit, it only threw a soft coat, so it didn't even bing, it didn't bong, it didn't there was no big message in the dashboard or anything. It literally just said, or it literally just had a little check engine icon in the bottom corner, and they said as soon as they looked at it and reset it, it was good to go. And I totally believe that, because even after it turned on, the truck drove totally fine. If the light had not been there, I would not have known anything was off. And, in this event, you're switching trucks the entire time, like there's 15 trucks on the scene. And for all I know, right before I drove it, some yabo was out there doing the same thing over and over and over again. And he heated it up just as much as I did. So, great experience.
Well, that's good.
Love the Ram TRX. Not totally sure it makes any sense. I wrote in my piece that there's some conflict internally with me, knowing that like big trucks, big tall SUVs especially, are becoming more and more connected to decreased pedestrian safety. That's just a reality. So I don't love that aspect of it. And I wrote that, I would, as much as I enjoy the truck, I would never, ever, ever buy one, even if I had the money, unless my almost every single day required me having a truck. And frankly, that's what I would recommend to anyone else. If someone else came along and asked me, hey, dude, I want to get this as a fun play toy, I'd say, nope. There's a million other ways to have fun that are better than that, unless you're literally only ever going to take it off-road. So.
No, that's all fair points. I mean, as a truck owner, my trucks are from the 90s, and they are reasonably sized compared to these monstrosities we have now. Think of it this way.
You're right.
When you see a movie, and it right now, major Hollywood movies, TV shows, when you see someone getting hit by a car, it is never a modern vehicle. They always get some jalopy from the 2000s, 90s, because that's where a stunt person can actually jump over the hood. You get a new truck, they can't do that. It's like getting hit by a bus.
Yep, it is. And New York Times just had a great article a few weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago now, where they actually will let you put your own height in, and then they have a mannequin and a little video demonstration of like what it would be like getting hit by different kinds of cars. And the problem is, when you get trucks and SUVs especially, and look, do I wish more people had sedans? Of course I do. But my point is, trucks and SUVs naturally, because of their body shape, have a higher grille. And the Times article and several other pieces of like pretty much unquestionable data says that when the hood is a certain height, rather than roll onto the hood, which is what you're talking about with stunt people being able to roll onto the hood, more often they get hit and then run over.
Yep.
I mean, you tell me what you would rather have if you're a pedestrian. Would you rather roll over the hood, or would you rather get pushed underneath the car?
I'd rather bounce off a windshield than get slammed into a grill, body slammed into the concrete, and then run over.
Yeah. So, a little bit of conflict there. I understand we should all be able to drive what we want to drive. That's the reality. But I think there should be some, if we should care more about people than we do about our right to drive whatever we feel like.
Yeah, there has to be a little bit of empathy going on. Like, hey, like I wouldn't, I like a TRX. I've driven several, and I get it. Like, I totally get it. They are a lot of fun, but it's reasonable. That truck is not built for school zones. It just isn't. Like you can use it, but the same way it's perfectly legal to walk into a Walmart with an AR-15 to your back. Hey, nothing wrong with it.
Yep.
But do you look like an asshole? Yes, you just do. I'm sorry, and that's as a gun owner and a truck owner, I can say that. So there are limitations.
Yeah, we just
But that
gotta,
being but
we try not to get political here, everybody, but like, and frankly, I don't know how political this even is. It's just a statement about like, caring about people more than car stuff.
think about it. The TRX wouldn't be that big of a deal if it was just smaller, like just a little more dense, compact.
Yeah, so it's funny you say that because I haven't written this, but you and me are so on the same wavelength so often. I thought about this. Ram is talking about like they're gonna do the Dakota again.
Yeah,
What's
because
wrong
they
with
have
that?
to.
What's wrong with a 700 horsepower Dakota? I don't see a single thing wrong with it.
I mean, look at the Ford Ranger Raptor. That thing is
Raptor,
perfect
yeah.
as far as like a dimension wise. It's the same size as an F-150 from the 2000s, and it goes like stink. It looks cool. Everyone around the world loves it. Here in America, we don't. They don't. It kind of goes under the radar because they have the Raptor full size one, but the Ranger Raptor, it's perfect.
What's the you know what? We're gonna do a little AI. What's the average amount of weight that the average avid tower tows with their vehicle in America? What's the average amount of weight that the average avid tower, so someone who tows on average quite a bit, how much do they tow on average? AI tells me there's no great nationwide data set that answers this directly, but we can get surprisingly close. The average American who tows regularly is probably pulling between 3,000 and 5,000 pounds.
Okay,
You know how much the Ranger Raptor tows?
3,000 change.
5,510. So
See, very
basically,
neat.
what we have just determined on this podcast is that the Ranger Raptor is the perfect truck for most people who want a truck
Yeah.
because it's fun, it's fast, it looks good, it's easy to park, it's easy to drive, it doesn't take up an entire lane by itself, and it tows more than the average tower needs.
Well,
There you
you
go.
know, look. I was thinking about this the other way, and I was driving over here because I was driving the Ram 1500, and I kept thinking, and I was passing a '80s Toyota pickup truck, the tiny ones, and it looked like a Miata from my high horse in the Ram. And I kept thinking about, look, modern trucks are bigger, stronger, etc. But are we towing more because of that, or are we still towing the same amount of work as we did back 20 years ago? But now it's easier because they got more muscle and comfort. Because it's like, all right, well, what's the argument? Because it was like, oh, well, they're bigger, they can tow more. Why do you want to tow more? That's more liability. Because if you think about it, like, oh, my employees can now tow more. Great. Your employees, if they mess up, it's bigger mess. So are trucks bigger because it's making the workload easier, or because we can now work more? No one's ever answered that. Because like an Super Duty, it can tow 13,000 pounds. Yeah, but who's towing 13,000 pounds and risking the insurance, the cost, the liability, the risk of towing that much weight every day for work? So what exactly are OEMs stating? It's like, oh, this truck can tow the moon. Great. Who needs that? Does that mean if I use it for my regular applications, it's not going to burn any fuel because it's using a tenth of its muscle? Like, next
I
time I
saw
talk to a
something that
truck
said
expert, I'm going to ask that.
you should, because like there are trucks out there that tow over 35,000 pounds now.
Yeah.
Like
I'm like,
that's
great.
insane.
What?
That's
So
17 tons.
yeah, like, all right. It's like, I don't think my liability insurance can cover that.
It is, we're speaking of trucks and safety, and this bridges really well into something you sent me earlier this week about long hauling truckers who transport livestock. I did not know
Hmm.
this. There are giant safety loopholes that these truckers can get through, essentially. Uh,
Yeah.
Now, I don't understand the ins and the outs. You can explain them better than I can. Go for it.
Well, essentially, you think of truckers in the 70s and 80s when they were just going, they have all their logs on paper. So they had two logs, their log, and then when they get to the company saying, oh, yeah, I rested every 8 hours. I only drove 600 miles, when in reality they were doing like 1,200 miles in the night. The outlaw trucker legacy. That all went away with computers and cameras. But the last sliver of that lifestyle of the outlaw trucker is livestock, because they are transporting cows, pigs, whatever, live animals, and so they don't need to stop every 8 hours because they're transporting live animals. They can't afford to stop, so they're turn and burn. That's all they do. So they can get around like DOT wait stops. They can get. They don't have. They can use paper logs because of that. And they are turning, like, they'll confess, like, yeah, we do 1,200 miles, 600, 1,600 miles in a day to make their, and they're getting paid way more because of that. Because it's like, oh, you're taking a greater risk by driving, nonstop for, 12, 18 hours just to get there. But you're doing it also partly for the well-being of the animals, because you can't have an animal on a truck for days on end. It has to be there that same day or within 12 hours, 8 hours, or whatever it is. And so even they'll the trucks themselves admit that it is a grind, but it pays well, and they are the last of the cowboys essentially, because they are literally moving cattle across the whole country, which is what cowboys did back in the old west. So they are the last of the cowboys, and I think that's fascinating, mostly because I like that kind of stuff. But again, you see it from a safety point, because yeah, if these truckers are doing 20-hour days, moving thousands of pounds of cargo, live cargo, there's a recipe for disaster. But I haven't seen many accident reports with these kind of trailers. I've seen it with everything else, but with livestock, I rarely see headlines like, oh, this livestock trailer flipped over on the highway, whatever the case may be, and there's pigs everywhere. I don't see that often compared to other vehicles. So there's got to be something. There's like a weird balance there where it seems to be working out for the most part.
Yeah, it is a weird balance to say the very least. I, again, didn't know about any of this at all until you brought it up this week. Um, and you're pretty much dead on in that, like, they have special rules essentially. They don't have to follow the exact same ones that the average trucker does. So part of that comes down to something called HR 4500, the HELP Act, passed by Congress, I want to say in 2020. Essentially, see if I can find the actual title. Hauling exemptions for livestock protection. Hauling exemption for livestock protection is the name of the bill. And I think that, you know, hilarious. It's funny to me that we're doing this segment right after talking about not being political, because I know this is super political to a lot of people, but it really just is an interesting situation, right? Here's an article from Sentient Media talking about, do trucker log loopholes put animals at risk, um, falsifying log books, things of that nature. And the question really comes down to, like, what is safer? The whole thing is super interesting because you have the question of safety for people on the road versus the safety of the animals, which are headed to slaughter anyway. Most of it's a weird conversation. I'd love to see what our listeners and watchers think about it. If you're not watching this on YouTube, that's the place to do it. Um, Moving on from the trucker conversation, let's see here. Which one to buy? This is a new segment we probably won't do all that often, but Jesus and I have just happened upon an opportunity to talk about the same car, basically, but two different trims. It just so happens that this week we've happened upon two cars that he and I have tested two different trims of. So let's talk about that. Let's start things off with the Subaru Outback. You and I have both driven the Subaru Outback Limited with the naturally aspirated engine, and we've both driven the Subaru Outback Wilderness with the turbo engine. Tell me your thoughts, Jesus. What should people buy if they have the option to get one or the other?
All right, so it comes down to two frames of mind. Do you want your Outback to be a Subaru? If so, you get the non-turbo, the naturally aspirated, the cheaper, slower 2.5 liter. If you just want an all-wheel drive, um, off-road capable SUV with ground clearance and leather seats, you get the turbo. It's perfectly fine. I prefer the naturally aspirated because, frankly, the fuel economy is outstanding. I got 35 miles per gallon in the Limited with a 3.5 liter on the highway. In the turbo, I was barely cracking 23. And that's just regular highway city use. It was deplorable by comparison. And frankly, I mean, the engine sounds a lot better without a turbo in the Outback. I know, turbocharged boxer engines, that's a Subaru thing, but in this particular variant, in this model, you hear it better without a turbo. With a turbo, it sounds like any other generic four-cylinder turbocharged SUV, which doesn't fly with me because people buy a Subaru for three reasons. Reasonably priced, it's safe, and it's good in the snow. But that fourth magical reason is the engine. People like that boxer feeling. They like the way it sounds, like the way it performs. It is different from everybody else. So why would you buy a Subaru with a boxer engine that doesn't sound and perform and feel like a boxer engine? So for my money, get the cheaper version. It's better as a Subaru first instead of an SUV first.
Yeah, I think I pretty much agree. If I'm totally honest, I would say don't buy a Subaru. Because I hate their gearboxes and I hate the way that they have, don't buy a Subaru unless you're buying it for a kid who doesn't drive.
That's
That's
true.
what I would say.
They
There's
are very
nothing in the
safe.
lineup that really inspires me. If I was, the BRZ is good, but I would rather have an FRS. I think it looks better, and I think you get a discount on it because it's a Toyota, and it's every bit as good as the BRZ. Um, I would not buy a Subaru. There's just nothing in the lineup that really interests me and excites me. That having been said, we can move on to what I've had this week. And have you had the orange Dodge Charger yet?
I've had the two-door six-pack, and this is way
Okay,
back
so you've
in
had that one. Okay, good
January.
deal.
Yeah,
Okay. What color was it?
it was orange. What do they call it?
Oh, okay, same one. Okay, good deal.
Peel out orange. That's the name. Peel out orange. That's what it's called.
Peel out orange, man. That's just Duke Boys orange is what that really is. Let's be honest. Great vehicle. And I currently have the Charger RT 6-pack. Let me tell you the differences there because they are important. The Charger currently, until next year probably, or late this year, is only available with a 6-cylinder. You and I have both driven the hotter of the two, which is the Scat Pack. And so the Scat Pack, let me see here. I will tell you exactly. In fact, I can bring you along for the ride. Again, if you're not watching on YouTube, that is the place to do it because we'll show you pretty much what we're doing as we go through it. Dodge sells several different trims right now. The RT Plus, Scat Pack Plus, Daytona Scat Pack, which is the EV, and the Daytona Scat Pack Plus, again, still the EV. Let's see. what the big difference is here. Go to powertrain. High output. So the Scat Pack gets the high output. I want to say it's like, what is it, 550, something like that? Welcome back, Jesus. We're talking about the differences between the Charger Scat Pack and the
Yep.
Charger RT.
Apologies. I'm here at the ranch, and there's a storm coming apparently because it's messing up with my Wi-Fi. Wind's brewing.
Dude, you are such a trooper. Essentially, we're looking at the difference between Charger RT and Scat Pack. And I want to say the horsepower difference is like 440 to 550, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm double
Well, look,
checking right now just to make sure.
the the two-door that I had was the Scatty. That was a Scat Pack. So you got the high output inline six Hurricane, which plenty. I thought it was fantastic as a performance vehicle, as a muscle car. Give or take. I just like the idea that you can still do burnouts with it and get the tail out and do some old-fashioned hooning with it. Yeah, that's the way it was. I haven't driven the four-door version yet, but I'm anxious to do it because I want to drive what essentially is the base model of this car to see what it can do. Like, is it? Because I mean, a lot of companies now like to paywall certain things. It's getting really annoying. GTA 6, for instance, for a great example. Now they no physical discs. They won't just want to give you a downloaded code, even though they want you to pay $100 for it. I'm like, no, that's not the way it works. I'm very uh, worried that automotive are trying to copy that business model. Where it's like, hey, if we just hide all the goodies behind this higher trim level, they'll have to buy the higher trim level and not worry about the base models.
Why is there a V8 tab? Oh, that's interesting. It just takes you over to the Durango. Okay. Yeah, here's the deal. So 420 horsepower, 468 pound-feet of torque versus 550 horsepower. So you get 130 more in the Scat Pack, and what is that? 70 more torque. I mean, it's a legitimate upgrade. There's no two ways around it. It is a legitimate upgrade. And you can feel that driving it. The other downside is with the RT, you don't get paddles and you don't get the sequential up and down in the actual gear shift either. So you end up with zero control of the gear and nothing like line lock or like the little tools you would really love. You still have sport mode, but you can't, like, let's say for instance you wanted to have sporty steering but a street suspension. You can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
If you want sport, it's sport everything. So it's not as configurable. That having been said, my test car. Go ahead. Sorry.
It just sounds like a premium airport rental.
It's kind of, but here's the thing: it's still 420 horsepower. Like, it's still a legitimate performance car.
Yeah.
And because it's rear wheel biased and you can put it in rear wheel drive mode, you can still do burnouts. You can still have a ton of fun with it.
Okay.
Sadly, that brings me to the point where I've got to admit that I broke it because I thought I was in rear wheel drive mode, and I guess I hadn't touched the screen just the way it wanted me to, and I had not gotten into full on rear wheel drive mode. And so when I tried to do a burnout, it sent a service all-wheel drive system message. I feel bad about
Oops.
that.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to fix it, and we'll see what happens. Because I am relatively confident that just like the Ram thing with the brake booster, this is probably not a physical issue. It's probably a sensor got its wires crossed because of, I got a brake pressure and gas at the same time. We'll see. In any case, what would I buy if it were up to me? I would probably. I mean, we're looking here 51 grand for the base Charger, and then if you want the Scat Pack 4-door, you're looking at 57. That's what I'd do. 57 Scat Pack. You're paying 5 or 6 grand more. You're getting a ton more horsepower. I would do the 4-door personally. I don't think some people won't need it. I would do it just for the practicality side of it. But I could be talked into the 2-door as well, because the 2-door has the same roof, the same back seat, the same amount of physical space inside. So you're actually not losing any. The only thing you lose going to the 2-door is ease of access to the back seat. That's it. Otherwise, it's the exact same vehicle and tons of space in the back. I put a bicycle in the back of it today. Yeah. I would do the Scat Pack 4-door, 57,690. I would go to a Dodge dealer and try to find a good deal. And I would
try and
do
get under 60
burnouts every week. Yeah. Amen. All right. Anything else we got to cover, bro? As you have soldiered through this Wi-Fi hellscape.
My apologies to everyone. To the good people who are watching and listening, thank you so much, and bear with me. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
look,
do appreciate it.
Honestly, if I'm buying a Charger, I'm gonna hold out one more year and wait for the Hemi, but that's just me.
And get the V8.
Because it's coming. You know it's coming.
It is coming.
Every time I speak to someone.
But here's the thing. Hold on. What if it only shows up as the Hellcat and then it's 80 grand?
Then I'm gonna be really upset. I'm like, guys, give me the 5.7. Give me a 6.4. I don't need the Hellcat. I don't want a supercharger. I just want a naturally aspirated V8 and a Charger. I don't need the full blown, please arrest me, steal me, Hellcat. I just want a Hemi RT with a V8. So 395 horsepower. I don't care if it's like, well, it's not 500. Give me 400 horsepower. I'm gonna have plenty of fun with that. Believe me. You give me that and an automatic shifter that I can move and operate like the old school pistol grips from the 70s. Oh, dude, where do I sign?
It's funny to me that they're probably and I'm guessing here, everybody, so don't hold me too super accountable, all 7 of you that are watching. It's funny to me that there's probably a GM product out there right now with a gear shift that has the little button on the side, where you can go up or down a gear on the side with your thumb. That probably exists, but in the Dodge Charger that's in my front yard right now, there's literally no way to go second, third, fourth, fifth. It's so funny to me. Dodge very much was like, keep that away from them.
Which is shocking because it seems like it's nothing. It's nothing, man. Like Nissan Altimos have that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it seems like a major overstep on their point.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna get out of here, everybody. We super, super, super appreciate you spending your time with us. Don't forget, we've got new social media channels. We've got one on Instagram. We'll probably have one on Twitter by the time that you see this. Driven to Live is the handle. You don't have to add the word podcast after the fact, at least not on Instagram. And just expect us to post all kinds of stuff, clips from the show, random stuff we see and do, stuff that you wouldn't necessarily see on our own Instagram pages. He is Jesus Behind the Wheel. You can find me at S Rivers Cars. Any parting words for our listeners and watchers there, Jesus?
Yeah, what do people say? Smash that subscribe button, which I hate when they say that. But, like, subscribe, comment, dislike, doesn't matter. Follow us on Instagram. Say how dumb our hats are. Doesn't matter. It all tracks. Okay? So, appreciate the feedback.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you next week.